Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, please do me a favor and subscribe. That would really help us out. Now let's get to that interview. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I've got actress Tiffany Lonsdale with me. So welcome, Tiffany.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one. So I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I think the first time I remember seeing you, you were on like a little mini series called Ascension.
Yes, that was shot in Montreal. And that was really, really fun. It was a period piece because it was set, the ship was sent off from America in the 60s. But we were, 50 years, 51 years into a 100-year journey. So when you meet us on the ship, we are still very much in the 60s because, of course, we have no outside communication with Earth at that point. And we had all the clothes and the interior design and the classism and the racism and all the sexism that came with it as well. It was a really interesting show.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. It was a neat idea because you were basically in this bubble that didn't grow and change as regular society was doing that back on Earth.
Yes, it was a fascinating experiment of all society because I can't remember how many people sort of started on the ship. And then, of course, they would have children and then had grandchildren as the years progressed. And so everyone got taught whatever their parent or grandparent knew. And it was a beautiful set. That atrium, if you remember, with the 5 stories, that was actually built. It was a proper set. So we could walk into the rooms when the camera followed us, and it was all production design in the 60s. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. And your character's name was Emily, which is my wife's name. So I didn't have any trouble remembering that one. Most of the time I would struggle.
Go, Emily. Yes.
Did they allow you to keep any of the period clothing?
I knew you were going to ask me that as soon as you started that question. And I'm annoyed now because I probably could have asked for, one of the dresses or something. But I didn't. I don't know about anyone else. But I have some great memories and photos from that time.
They had that. I mean, some of those styles are coming back a little bit.
Yes. I mean, doesn't everything, isn't it all cyclical, Mike? Like, I feel like
it does. It all comes back around. I'm not sure what decade we're currently on, but it's probably, I don't know, 90s, maybe we're.
Yeah. I would say almost 80s and 90s. Yeah. Maybe late 80s, early 90s with like all the tracksuit bottoms and like the paper waist jeans and yeah. I'd say.
I don't know that I would call it good fashion, but it was fashion.
It's fashion. That's it.
Maybe I can't do it anymore, but back in the 80s, everybody had the big hair, so I was able to do it back then. I couldn't do it now, but that I wouldn't mind it. It looked terrible for everybody, but it was kind of fun. So I wouldn't be upset if that came back.
So fun. I love looking back at, 80s photos and 90s photos and the shoulder pads and the hair. And then obviously Snowfall is set in my current show is set in the 80s. So it was like it came back around again.
That's the reason that initially that I started watching the show, because they said it was set in the 80s. I was like, that's my decade. That's when I grew up. And I think they do a really good job on the show, paying, kind of homage to the 80s. They get a lot of it right.
We had for my fittings, I was lucky enough that I got a lot of, vintage pieces that are found, vintage secondhand older pieces. And, between the sort of the Adidas shell jackets, and it was just like that very thin, the windbreakers and all. It was so fun. I got to try on so many pieces, and I wanted to wear so many of them. Minka Draper, who's our costume head, and her whole team just does such an amazing job. I thought everyone had a fun, distinctive style that really matched the color and the city of that time.
I think for me, so when I was a teenager, when I first entered high school, it was all parachute pants, muscle shirts, and like members only jackets. If you remember members only.
Is that the varsity one? Is that like a varsity
well,
jacket?
it's similar. No. So all I really remember is they were jackets that you could push the sleeves up on them because everybody wore them with like the sleeve pushed up.
Like Ferris Bueller.
Yes.
Type jackets like that.
Yes.
Okay. Wait, where was high school for you then?
All right. So I'm in West Virginia and that's where I grew up. So it was, right. It was here, and we were behind, like, we still are at times. So like if fashion hits somewhere, a year or two later is usually when West Virginia kind of picks up on it. So we were behind on it. They probably already moved by the time we were wearing that stuff. But I thought, I was pretty cool back then with my parachute pants. And
so you're technically still in like 2018.
That's probably accurate. That's probably right.
Right.
We're probably like right before the pandemic.
Right. Frozen. Right. Got it.
Frozen. just like Ascension. We're stuck right there.
Exactly.
Check back in a couple of years and I'll probably be wearing whatever is going on right now.
Okay.
So I jumped ahead just a little bit because I want to talk more about Snowfall, but let me back up a little bit. Tell me a little bit about how you got into acting. What made you want to become an actress?
Well, I thought about this question on and off for the last few years because I wouldn't say it was as clear as maybe some of my peers when they were younger and new and signed on and went to high school drama and theater school and that. I had a bit of a different trajectory, and I knew I loved TV and film and stage. I watched it all the time. I talked about it. I loved it. I lived it. I went to the cinema with both my parents. I would sit in front of the television, I was an only child, latchkey kid. So I would come home from school and just like click on the telly. Yep. And I loved it. And I didn't quite know how to express that. So I went through some other careers of choices of like production, so behind the camera, and I worked in branding for a bit and marketing for a bit and sort of dabbled here and there. Yeah, which is good life experience out in the world.
That's right.
With clients and learning to communicate and learning a lot. And I studied sociology at university. So I feel like it all tied in and it was all helpful. And then I made the decision when I moved back to the States after being in England, which you might be able to tell from my accent, I was back and forth between England and America. So I moved back to the States and really felt compelled to follow what felt like a tug towards an artistic, creative life. And I'm not sure I knew that it was going to be career. It felt more like I needed to pursue this for my soul and do something creative rather than corporate. And I just fell in love with it. And as soon as I started taking acting classes and booking work, I couldn't see anything else in front of me. That was what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that's pretty great. Do you, like, when you were in school, did you take theater? Were you doing some stuff that kind of exposed you to it all, or was it all other things and then you came to it later?
I did not take a single class at school in theater. Now, having said that, I went to university in England, and in the English system, you study your major from start to finish. So there aren't we don't have foundation classes, and you don't have all the credit system where you can study creative writing and psychology or theater, and you study your major from start to finish for 3 years and then you graduate. There are exceptions to that, but generally that's how most people go through the
Okay.
system. And so there really wasn't an opportunity to dabble in it. I took a popular music class, which I really loved. And one of my roommates at university was in the theater program. And I used to remember thinking, gosh, her classes in her days just seemed so much more fun than mine. And I still wasn't in that space where I would even think about it. I just really enjoyed hearing about what she was doing. And so I started acting classes after that. And I think I was lucky in the sense that I wasn't bringing any bad habits to that.
Clean slate.
I was starting very fresh. Yes.
Yeah. Now I think that's pretty great. So what was your entrance into acting? What was your first role?
Oh my gosh. I think it was actually a combination. I was in Dallas, Texas. I'd come back from, that's where I grew up in Dallas, England and Dallas. So I moved back to Texas, and there's a wonderful theater in Dallas called Theater 3. And I was cast in Murder on the Nile, an Agatha Christie play, as the wife, the glamorous wife who ends up getting killed at the end of the first act. And then it's the murder mystery on the boat of who kills me. And it was great. And it was so wonderful. And it was scary and exciting. And the whole support team at Theater 3, they were so good to me. It was my first, proper play. And when I was auditioning, I remember Jack, who has since passed away, he was like, speak louder. And I was like, I feel like I'm shouting. He was like, it's theater. I was like, okay. And I learned so much from my castmates who are all so wonderful. I have such fond memories of that time. And I would say also at that time, I was booking commercial work in Texas, and very fortunate. Again, I was background actor in a lot of commercials, and that was really good experience. And it's exhausting work. And it's especially like sometimes in the summer, right, in Texas, it's 100 degrees outside, 70% humidity. And you're just,
you're
dripping
drenched.
wet with you're drenched, and you're just like, I'm fine, but again, just an amazing, supportive, artistic community there. You would bump into friends on set or in the audition room. And I always found it to be very supportive. I was very, very lucky with that. So I started everything at the same time: industrials, voiceover, commercials, theater, television work. Yes.
Dove in.
Yes.
Did you get a proper, did you get to die on screen, or did you just have to play dead when your character was?
That's it. No, I think I get shot off stage on that one.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's a bang. And
I guess it'd be a little tougher to have it be a mystery if you were killed.
I remember my dad and some of his friends came to see it, and I didn't tell them anything about it. And I die at the end of the second. And so I don't come back on. And my dad was like, we were waiting for you to come back on. Why didn't you tell us? We could have gone and got some dinner. I was like, I'm sorry. I wanted you to enjoy the play.
He didn't want to see the play. He just came to see you.
Yeah, it was really funny. Yeah.
So you spent a lot of time in Texas. Can you do the Southern Texas accent?
Well, I sure can, Mike. I hope you just have the most blessed day. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, that's really good.
Thank you.
That's really good. Yeah, that's really good.
Thank you.
I
don't pay me the big bucks, Mike, for phoning it in, I
always wished I could do accents because I've got this one, which is kind of distinct, and I'm not even sure I do it right, but I managed to stumble through my own, accent, but I can't do anybody else's. So I'm very jealous of those that can do the other.
I feel like yours is so distinctive that it's just, it's very solid. So you can say that you really do have one. It's so great. And, that's where you're from. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's solid,
I have no problem with it. Yeah. It's kind of unique. it fits in the Southern accents, but it's a little unique. We have our own twist on it. So yeah, it's worked well for me so far. So, okay. So let's talk Snowfall. So talk a little bit about your character and what her role is on the show.
Thank you, Snowfall. So actually, as I'm sitting here talking to you now, last night was our season 5 finale. So I've just finished it. So it's really exciting to see the whole story unfold now after months of shooting during quarantine. And I join season 5 as Parissa, and I'm Iranian, who was a former physician in Tehran and knows Teddy, the CIA officer, in sort of before we've met him on the show. We have a history of knowing each other in Iran, and he helps me get out of Iran and to LA. And he sort of, just pays me to keep me on, cash under the table to keep me in case he needs help with anything. And at the point that you meet me, Teddy has, burned almost every bridge, and he's wounded, and he knows that I'm capable of helping him get back on his feet because of my training. And that's where we reconnect. And it was such a joy to bring a very strong, intelligent, quite interesting, sexual at times, masochistic at times, funny, droll, really multifaceted character to the show. And well, at least I hope that's what happened. But
you've actually done the goal. She's so tough. Like when you first meet her, she's very tough. You're like, ooh, she's not messing around.
No messing around. And discussing those elements with Dave Andron, our showrunner, over Zoom. That was my first time meeting him after I got hired, because I got cast off a self-tape, which was so wonderful. And then it all just happened very quickly. I was then getting COVID tested for wardrobe fitting, and I had a Zoom table read, and I had a meeting over Zoom with the showrunner, and then a meeting with Carter, who plays Teddy, and also Kevin Rodney Sullivan, who directed episodes 5 and 6. It was like boom, 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 boom. So I was getting a lot of information very quickly. And one of the conversations I had with Dave Andron was about allowing Parissa to meet Teddy where he's at in terms of strength, because he's used to calling the shots, and here he is rocking up on my doorstep, bloodied and injured, and I've got the upper hand, and he wasn't quite used to that, and really playing with that.
Yeah, I thought that was such a great scene. And yeah, the interaction between the two of you, there's obviously a whole lot going on. There's definitely history, but there's tension, but like a couple of different types of tension. There's just a lot going on right there. I love it.
Thank you so much for watching. Yes, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. It was very intense because of all the props and the surgery. And the prop department and the makeup department, bullet fragments, like teeny tiny, they kept getting lost like in the wound, and I'm having these forceps, and we have a med tech on set, thank goodness. It's a lot, and it was brilliant, but it adds to the adrenaline, it adds to the tension. It was great.
Yeah I'm so looking forward to the finale. That's weekend watching for me, so I save those till the weekend and then watch
Great.
them. Yes, I'm looking forward to that. So I wanted to ask you about, you were on Siren, and we loved you on that show. You were Tia, and just so good on that show. And I wonder if you could talk about that for just a minute, because I thought it was, we were very sorry to see it go.
Yeah, I know. It was, talk about intense. That season 3 of Siren was really full on from the start. Mainly, of course, because if people aren't familiar with the show, we are sirens, different to mermaids, but to give you an idea, we are,
Yep.
you know, sea creatures, and we are predators in the sea, very strong, highly intelligent, adaptable, fierce, tribal creatures. And I am a bit of a, you know, an isolated character who rocks up at the beginning of season 3 because I have heard that there are others like me, and I find them. And when I see that they've made friends with humans, I don't like that. And so it's very intense from the start, just in terms of the storyline. But on top of that, we are doing our own water work in a tank. So we learn to free dive. We're working with a free diving team. We have a whole stunt team. We have a whole scuba diving team. So that was 5.5 months of land crew and water crew. And there was one tank day for every episode. So we would shoot all the water scenes in one day. And some of those, you know, some of those scenes are highly choreographed. Having said that, that's difficult to do underwater because we obviously move differently. But you have your contact lenses in underwater. You keep your eyes open underwater. You cannot let breath out underwater because we are sea creatures. So we don't breathe like we would as humans outside of water. And you have a spear that you're fighting with. And it was nuts, but it was one of the best experiences of my life. The entire cast and crew are incredible. They welcome me with open arms. We had so much fun. The water work made it intense in the best way possible, like up leveling your game of you have to be safe. And Roberta, who was our tank mom, is, you know, one of the top free divers in the world. And she works with all the TV crews and she's incredible. And Jeff Hoddy, who was our, you know, scuba dive master, like these people are at the highest level of what they do. So you feel very safe. And it allows you the freedom to really be in the moment. And Aline, who plays, Rin, the lead, Siren, really was set the bar very high from day one on season 1 for all of the sirens to follow in terms of how you show up in the water and how you move as a siren. And so I really took the lead from her. And I have to say, it still makes me yearn to be back there in the tank with my siren family, because that's how wonderful the experience was.
So terrific. Did that make you nervous though when you were going into it, knowing that you had to be, you know, in the tank at least one day a week?
I wasn't nervous because I didn't know the extent to what we were doing until I got there. It was really interesting. Now, of course, in the casting process, they say, you know, are you comfortable swimming? Are you comfortable in the water? I'm like, sure, absolutely. And then, no joke, I get there on a Monday to Vancouver. This is straight into production offices for fittings. We have to get our own teeth made because every siren has the predator teeth. Oh yeah, of course. I had to get, you know, my own contact lenses made. I was working with our wonderful costume department. So that's day 1. Day 2, I was in the pool with Roberta and Jeff, just like, let's do this. And I'm like, okay, we've got a few days to prepare because then I'm shooting the next week. It was full on. Now I'm very comfortable in the water. I love it. I grew up swimming, just flapping around a pool and in the ocean. So I really loved every minute of it, but there were times where it is challenging. And when you're underwater with multiple sirens, you get used to it. It's extraordinary because at first you can't see anything because we're not born with eyesight, you know, to be clear underwater, and you adapt. It's really incredible over the 5.5 months how strong we all got, being able to see who was who underwater, how close you are. And because, you know, the speaker that comes through the tank is how you can hear the director, and they can give you directions so you can hear people under the tank. It's so cool. And they're like, right, can you go halfway down? And boom, you know where halfway down is in 16 feet, which is, it's a skill that you hone over time. So I was nervous the first time. It's very intimidating getting into a huge tank with like 20 people. And then after the first hour, I wanted more. I loved it.
I love that. How do you keep the contacts in? Because I would think they would just get washed away.
That's a great question. So we had contact lenses for when we were on land, and those are normal sized, but when we're in the water, they're slightly bigger. So when you're moving in the water, the current of that you're in is keeping them sort of sucked against your eyeballs. Yeah. So they're bigger, so they don't move around as much. But we did lose contact lenses. I mean, it's not like they're, I mean, it's, you know, and the dive team will go down and get them for you. Like, it's crazy. You know, you lose everything underwater. It's great.
Did you get to keep the teeth?
No. I kept my little nose. It's called a sinus saver, which we all wore, because when you're diving and all that, you don't obviously want the water up your nose.
No.
I kept that, which is so random, but I felt really close to it by the end, because you get very friendly with your nose. But I have a funny story around the teeth, which is I dropped it off the side of the tank. That's actually, it's a 16-foot drop, and they broke. And these are purpose made, custom made for me teeth. And oh my gosh, the whole team was like, right, we're on it. Someone goes down and gets the two hubs. They're gluing it together, because we're still shooting. And thank God for this amazing hair, makeup, dive, custom prosthetics team put together, because they saved the day.
Yeah, I'm so glad I asked, because that's so fascinating. The behind the scenes stuff, when you're watching it, you don't really think about the difficulties that you had filming it. That's amazing.
There's always a story, Mike. Always a story.
Well, that's it for me. That's the fun stuff. I love hearing the behind the scenes stuff. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much. This has been just the best. I'm so glad you came on the show. I'm such a fan of yours. I think you're such a good actress. And when you showed up on Snowfall, I was like, I know her. That's Tia.
That's right. Mike, thank you so much. I wanted to say, look, just before we go, that I listened to a few of your episodes. One is with my friend Amy Aquino. And I got the chance to she's amazing. And I was listening to you talking about gardening and the monarch butterflies, and I think there may have been stones mentioned. There was something else, and that was really great. And then I just listened to a bit of Jasivia, or is it Javicia Leslie from Batwoman.
Yeah.
And then I just listened to Will Wheaton, and again, Monarch Butterflies came up, and then I saw Monarch Butterfly. I was like, "This is a sign." I was
so upset with myself that I didn't mention that me and Amy had talked about Monarch Butterflies.
I know. I was thinking that because you guys got so into it, and I just at the end of Will Wheaton's, I've got a few minutes left on it, but he was talking about Neil Gaiman, and I'm a massive Neil Gaiman fan as well. Yeah. So I was like, right, in good company here. So thank you so much. I really, really enjoy your podcast.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you for listening. That means so much. A couple of things though, before you go, outside of Snowfall, anything else you're working on that we can keep an eye out for?
Well, a few things are circling, and of course, as actors, we get back in the auditioning zone, and it's part of the job. So I'm very lucky to be auditioning now, and season 6 of Snowfall has just been announced, so that's pretty exciting.
It's amazing. It's been on for 6 seasons.
It's incredible, and what they've done, they've grown as a family. A lot of them have been married now with kids, and to see them grow it's really lovely.
Yeah. Well, you're terrific on there, and I can't wait to see where it goes, because it's been such a fun show. When it first came out, like I said, I was just watching it because it was in the 80s, but I mean, immediately I was like all in. It's so good.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really happy to be watching it now from a new perspective as well.
Yeah, for sure. So last thing, where can we find you on social media?
Great. I'm on Instagram. That's my only social, Tiffany Lonsdale.
Yeah, I found you very easy on there.
Yeah. Okay, good. I guess that's the point. Oh goodness. For better or worse, there I am.
Well, if you put in Michael Wall, there's like a billion that come up.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which is why, we went with MeisterCon, because there was only one of those. So we
Great. Yes, there is, Mike. Yes, there is.
Well, thank you so much, Tiffany. This has been the best. You have to come back.
Thank you. I'd love that. I really appreciate your time. It's been a blast.
Yeah, it sure has. Okay, hold on one second. Well, it was a fun interview for me. I'm a big fan of Tiffany's. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I think she's so talented. If you haven't seen her on Snowfall, like, she's amazing, just unbelievable. Immediately, like right from the beginning when she comes on the show, is just some of the best scenes. Definitely check that out. It's, oh boy, that show is so good, and she's just terrific. Loved her on Siren too. She was so good on that. And we didn't even get to talk about, she was on G.I. Joe Retaliation. Obviously, I'm nerdy, so I knew that. Hail Caesar, she had a little role, and she showed up on an episode of SWAT, which I thought was really neat. So we'll have to have her back on, because I have a few more questions I want to get in with her. Thank you guys so much, as always, for checking us out, coming back to us week after week. We don't take that for granted. Really, really appreciate it. If you haven't done so yet, we could use the help with our YouTube channel, MeisterCon Pod. If you could subscribe, we would really, really appreciate and love that. You can find all 400 episodes, audio and video, on our website, meistercon.com. It's it's a fun place to be. It's got a geeky blog that Brett writes. He's such a good writer. I think you'll enjoy that. If we're doing anything in studio, if we're going on location, if we're covering conventions, we'll put that on the website, meistercon.com. So definitely check that out. Until next time, thank you guys so much. Bye, everybody.